Hey, Chris, thanks for meeting with me.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks for having me.
will you tell me a little bit about what Floodlight Consulting Group does?
Yeah, so we basically exist to build lifelong relationships with restorers, right? To come alongside them, to help equip them and their teams to take their business to whatever the next level is for them. For some of them, it's getting into commercial sales and diversifying their revenue. For others, it's building leaders within their team, right, to carry their
Mhm.
business to the next level. But We're we're a full service consulting company that helps them in all four areas of the business, from their finances and field activities to their administrative operations, leadership, HR, sales, marketing. Um, we identify where they're trying to go and what they're trying to do. And then we provide them a consultant and access to our whole Floodlight team to give them the resources and support to do that.
Mhm. Um, yeah, I love what you guys do. You also have so many helpful videos, podcasts. I mean, you guys put a lot of
Yeah.
output into the community, a lot of really great, helpful stuff. What customer would most benefit from your services?
Good question. So generally speaking, our clients fall in a very broad spectrum, but typically people come to us when they start to hit about that $3 million point in revenue. And it varies anywhere from 6 to 10 people on their team. And then we've got companies right now that we're helping that are 50, 60, $70 million a year with well over 100 employees,
Mhm.
multiple locations, all that kind of stuff. But typically people will come to us about that 3 million mark because they realize, okay, what got me here, that
Yeah,
old adage, right, is not necessarily going to get me forward where I want to go. And they're
yeah,
and they're looking for some guidance. They're looking for some direction and support.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you can hold things together with the shoestring for so long, but and do
Yeah.
quite well really for a while, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and there are a lot of consultants out there, and lots of them are fantastic. Um,
Sure.
what is it that you guys do that is unique?
Yeah. Good question. Well, yeah, there are some great consultants in our industry. In fact, I haven't met any bad ones. I think there's a lot of really well-intentioned, passionate, experienced people coming out of our industry that are serving in that way. I think what the way Brandon and I have tried to differentiate Floodlight and this continues to be a big part of our vision is how do we build evergreen, long term, really long term relationships? Because any of us that have been in a successful marriage for a while, once you find yourself in a successful marriage, you realize just how valuable it is to have this long term understanding of this other person.
Mhm.
Likewise, you get into a good business partnership. Man, if you get a good business partnership, it doesn't matter what you do, you get the right relationships in place, you can do anything together. And
Yeah.
that's we see the potential for that in restoration. So the way we approach it is a little bit different. And a big part of the way we consult is that we want our clients to have access to us. It's a bit of a limiting factor for our business
Mhm.
model. Like, so we only allow our consultants to take on 12 clients,
Mhm.
a maximum of 12 clients. And the purpose of that is that it allows them to maintain a significant amount of white space in their calendar to be available to those clients. We call it our ad hoc time. It's
Mhm.
all of that as needed stuff that comes up, because what we found when we hired a consultant in our industry, Brandon and I did 8, 9, 10 years ago, was that the information they gave us was incredibly valuable.
Mhm.
And we continue to draw on some of that intelligence, some of those best practices today that we learned
Yeah.
from that consultant. But here's the thing that was a prevailing thought or experience when we've hired consultants is it can feel like you're a drowning person that's being handed a baby. And
Uh-huh.
it's like, hey, we got this great program, this great curriculum. We're going to teach you all this good stuff. We're going to share this best practices. You ask us a question, we're going to give you good answers.
Yeah.
Now we'll see you in a week and a half. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you 2 weeks from now. Good luck with your homework.
Yeah.
And what we really wanted was somebody to help us. Not
Mhm.
necessarily get into the weeds and into the trench with us per se, but somebody who is available that could hold our hand through, certain kinds of struggles and just implementing, helping our team implement these new processes or behaviors or standards, model certain behaviors, certain ways of saying things to our team. For example, a lot of times people really need help running an effective production meeting, as an example. They
Mhm.
kind of know what a production meeting is supposed to contain, but nobody's ever modeled for them. Maybe they didn't have the benefit of growing up in the industry to see what a really efficient and productive whip review looks like in the
Yeah,
context of a recon department, right? So it's not uncommon for us at Floodlight for one of our consultants to literally lead a whip review or a production meeting for one of our clients' downline leaders so that they can step back and watch and get a sense for what does this look, feel, sound like
yeah,
for me to run a really good whip walkthrough.
yeah.
And then ultimately to have that existing leader step back in, and then the consultant is able to observe them and then provide feedback and coaching to that. But that is probably our single greatest differentiator is we tell our clients, and all of our consultants tell our clients this as well. If I'm not with my family, sleeping, or with another client, you have access to me for
Mhm.
for all of the big and little conversations, struggles, conflicts, and things that are inevitably going to come up as we're working together. Like that's where the magic happens. And that's also where this relationship forms, where it's like, I had one of my clients early days.
Mhm.
His name was John. John called me on a Sunday morning, and I answered the phone. And I answered the phone. Let's just say I was having a quiet moment in the restroom, and I see John's calling, and I'm like, I put it on speakerphone. I'm like, "Hey, John." I get real quiet. John needed me,
Yeah.
and what John wanted to talk about on a Sunday morning was, Chris, I'm having a really hard time being present with my family at home and not spinning out and thinking about work or pulling my laptop out or just running off to the office to get things done that I feel are tugging at my sleeve. How do you find ways to decompress on the weekends and create some separation from the business? Well,
Mhm.
I'm like, well, John, you're not alone, man. Can I call you back in 5 minutes?
Yeah,
No, but
exactly.
but but seriously, that is and that was a powerful conversation for him because I was able to share with him, "Look, John, here's some ideas about a morning cadence, a
Mhm.
morning discipline. Here's some ideas about some things you can do, particularly on the weekends, some disciplines you can put in place, you know?"
Mhm.
And that was what at that on that weekend, on that Sunday morning, that was what this client needed from his consultant.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times, as consulting companies, we can get hyper fixated on the tactical best practices, do this, do that, educating, and we're under indexing on supporting them in all of these other material ways that owners and senior leaders need to be supported in order to make
Mhm.
progress. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's lovely, and I think that puts a lot of value on the relationship, as you have said, and on the human themselves, and I can see how that absolutely when people are feeling valued and feel like they have that support system, it's more than paperwork, it's more than here's the rules, follow them, but really that support system that can be very comforting to the
Yeah.
people that are wanting help. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's head, heart, and boots, right?
Yeah.
It's like our podcast. The podcast is it's one of the expressions of Floodlight Consulting Group, a Brandon and I's vision, and it's becoming more and more an expression of our team and what our team is focusing on and what they care about and all that. But it's head, heart, and boots. It's all those things, and I think we tend, especially in the services industry and the trades, we tend to hyper focus on the tactical, the boots, the work of it, the do,
Mhm.
that just do this. Just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, forget about your emotions, don't get too in your head, just do the do. And it's like, well, yes, to a point, But I think all of us, and it's usually when we find success, we start
Mhm.
to make the money. We start
Mhm.
to have the things, we start to be able to buy the trucks where we're paying the bills, meeting our payroll and stuff is no longer the concern. We realize, oh man, this is not the be all end all.
Mm,
The money wasn't actually the target. And now
yeah.
I have all of these other things in terms of my relationships with my spouse and my family that I've been neglecting in the process of building this business up, or I've been neglecting developing and building my team and
Mhm.
mentoring them and teaching them how to lead. And so now I have the money, but I'm also working my tail off, because I have to have my fingers on every area of the business. Nobody ever taught me how to lead and to
Yeah.
build depth within my leadership team. And so I think it's this more holistic way of looking at the restorer
Mhm.
and looking at our work and who we are as a restoration company. I think that's certainly what we want to be about. Now, whether or not other, consultants are oriented around that, it's hard to say, right? Because I don't run those
Certainly.
businesses.
Yeah.
But it's how we want to differentiate and how we want to approach our work with our clients for sure.
Yeah. I think I've definitely seen that in my interactions with you all, as a company, and I'm so
Mm,
glad that you're out there doing a great job and providing the support to people who need it.
yeah.
Um, I think that's so wonderful.
Right on. That's so good to hear. That's cool. Yeah.
Well, thanks for meeting with me. I'm sure I'll run into you before too long at an event or something.
Absolutely. Well, geez, thanks for interviewing me and putting this
Yeah.
out there. Yeah, it's great.
We'll
Yeah,
talk to you
appreciate it.
soon.
All right.